On this episode, I sit down with Nikol Klein out of San Diego and discuss all aspects of her business. More importantly, she divulges her two favorite resources for leads. Before we begin, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can be in the loop as we drop new episodes. I'm your host, Shawn Kunkler, and we're live.
All right.
Thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you as well.
I love, as we were trying to get started, we had a huge snafu with the audio and all of that, and we both just jokingly said it's like real estate.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get.
You never know. You just have to stay cool, explore options, figure it out, and move forward.
It's a new adventure every day.
It totally is. So what are you doing currently? How are you doing in the business? We're going through kind of a change in the market.
Yeah, I can definitely tell it's a little bit slower all around. At my listings, I'm not getting as many showings as obviously I was getting over the last 2 years. But I've been preparing all year for this, I feel like, and I'm getting more listing calls right now. So I actually think, for those of us who are really grinding, working on our marketing, reaching out to our sphere and farms, there's a great opportunity coming for all of us.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think it's not dissimilar to farming. You can't just pick the fruit all year round. Like, there's different seasons to it and there's cycles, and just recognize the cycle you're in and then work towards it. I agree. I'm listing heavy currently, and I tend to slide back and forth between being buyer heavy. I prefer to have much more buyers right now, but that's not how the universe is doling them out to me at the moment.
That's okay.
What are you doing in terms of your outreach currently?
I'm doing a lot of, handwritten notes. Of course, this time of year, being that it's the holidays, like for Thanksgiving, I delivered pies to my clients. I'm probably going to deliver some poinsettias for Christmas. But I've been doing a lot of that. Like I said, the handwritten notes, sending out CMAs and just really showing them how much I care. And I think because of how busy it was over the last 2 years, a little bit of that got lost. I mean, I'm sure you were super busy. I was crazy busy, and I didn't have the time to, maybe reach out to someone and say happy birthday. Or even like last year, I didn't even door drop holiday gifts. I mailed them. But I would prefer to hand deliver them, to see them, to say happy holidays, that sort of a thing. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I have an idea, maybe for a little New Year's gift, maybe dropping off little sparkling cider Martinelli's with a little tag on it. How about you? What are you up to this time of year?
For the December holiday, we sent out an apron, a logoed apron, with a handwritten card. I'm huge on handwriting everything. So this went to a very large cross section of our database. So delivering it in person it just wasn't feasible. It would have taken me probably 2 weeks of driving around.
It's a lot.
I just had a conversation with Blake Binns on an earlier podcast, and we were talking about just receiving a handwritten card. So I'm a huge fan, and my team knows this, is when we do mailers like that, the address label has to be handwritten. Every aspect of it has to be handwritten because it's a personal experience. I never want my clients to just feel they're like one of many. I want them to feel like they're the one and the only one. And so I think, which I love that you're on the same page, is just really scaling it back and being hyper personal about it. And to your point, in 2020, when the market picked back up and the mortgage rates were virtually zero, that's where the marketing side is where we totally fell apart. There was no time. We were, as I'm sure as you, it was 80-hour weeks and just barely keeping your head above water.
Oh yeah. Reviewing 26 offers with your seller, like that was
Brutal. It was fun. I mean, obviously we all did really well financially, but it was just like, oh my goodness. Yeah, like you have an open house and there's like 200 people came through on opening weekend. Like staggering.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny. I feel like we went from traveling at 500 miles an hour and now we're back to normal speeds. And everybody's freaking out because it's too slow. And you're like, no, it's actually, this is normal. That other thing, chaos.
Yeah. Feels a lot like 2019 to me. I know everyone has a different opinion, but it feels like how it did in 2019, the way the pace was, particularly in the fall.
Yeah. So I'm in San Francisco. Our 2019 was still pretty competitive. We didn't have a lot of inventory. Within the condo market within San Francisco, we have right now way lots of inventory. So it's very, very slow. So single families are still, if they're marketed well and they look nice, they're still moving at a pretty good clip.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would liken it to 2019, but you're out of San Diego, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me about that awesome sale you had, the 5.6. That was amazing.
Yeah. So there's actually a pretty funny story behind that. Of course, right? Every great sale has a great story.
I always do.
So that was last year. I sold that property in Rancho Santa Fe. It was 17538 El Vuelo. And I've known this seller for years. I think I met the seller back in I don't know. I'd known him before, but our real estate relationship started in 2018. And he had actually purchased a home with me in Encinitas and had that Rancho Santa Fe house on the market with another agent. And I kept telling him, this is 2019, it's on the market with another agent. I kept telling him, I'm like, why is your house not selling? It's an architectural masterpiece. It's a historic home. What's going on? And he's like, oh, my agent, she's the best in Rancho Santa Fe. She's just, she's well connected. So she's going to sell it. And I was looking at what she was doing for marketing and I'm like, I don't think so. This is a special buy and it's not going to appeal to everyone. So, I have a whiteboard in my office where, I write down active listings, pending listings, and then I have a little section at the bottom where I have all my buyer prospects, and then I have seller prospects, and I write the address. So I wrote the address, under seller prospects on my whiteboard, and I would look at it every day, and I'm thinking, okay, I know that listing agreement's going to expire at the end of the year. Let's see if he calls me. So he called me. I did my listing presentation, and long story short, he ended up going with another agent. So second time around, I didn't get the listing. And I happen to know this agent really well too. And I knew this agent wasn't going to sell it because I knew what he was doing for his marketing. And so I told my client, I said, hey, you're going to be calling me a year from now. You're going to be calling me again. And at that point, you're going to list with me. He's like, okay, if it doesn't sell with him, I'm going to call you in a year. Well, he called me a year later. And 6 months on the market, I had about 60 showings. I did a huge marketing campaign on YouTube. So I was running YouTube ads with one of my video tours. I had people flying in from New York. I had people flying in from San Francisco, coming into town from all over the place to see this property. And it was because of the video marketing that I was doing. So, we had about 60 showings over that 6-month period. The previous agents had barely had any showings, 0 offers from what I was told. So, I hyped it up. It became my project, kind of like my baby, and knocked it out of the park.
That's amazing. I'm sure now that seller is like, okay, now I have a go-to agent.
Oh yeah. And it's funny, like I was his go-to agent before too, but for some reason he's like, oh, you haven't sold any houses in Rancho Santa Fe before. I have to go with, you know, so-and-so because everyone knows so-and-so. It's like, no, you need to go with me. But I guess the moral of the story is like we're all talking about goal setting and manifesting and that sort of a thing right now because it's the new year. I basically manifested that listing, you know, from 2018 till when they signed the listing agreement with me in end of 2020. I manifested it. I had it up there on my whiteboard like it was my listing.
I love that.
Because it was. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of manifesting, just keeping it front of mind.
Mm-hmm.
If our minds are focused on going after that thing, any little opportunity that comes up along the way, our minds are just grabbing at it and going for it rather than just being negative all the time. So I love that you did that and actually succeeded and got it. Tell me more about the marketing. Like clearly 2 other agents had it, didn't get it to go where they didn't get any traction clearly because they didn't get the exposure that it needed. Let's kind of break it down in segments. Did you do any print marketing for the property?
So that was something that the seller and I spoke about because, you know, these other agents, you know, they have a huge presence in, you know, the Dream Homes magazine and Premier magazine, you know, and the newspapers. And when we spoke about it, he's like, well, Nikol, we've already been in all of the newspapers. We've been on the cover of Dream Homes. You know, what can you bring to the table that's going to be different? My approach was, yes, we're still going to do print advertising. I'm going to put you in Dream Homes, but because this is an architecturally significant property and it's a historic home, I want to contact Architectural Digest. Wow. I want to approach Sunset Magazine, you know, because the architect was the designer of the Sunset Magazine headquarters. So taking a different approach and actually doing the print marketing, but putting it in a place where it's more relevant. Because I feel like, you know, your Dream Homes, your Premier, whatever your local magazines are that you can just pick up everywhere. Who's looking at those magazines? Realtors. But who's looking at Sunset Magazine? Who's looking at Architectural Digest? The potential buyer for the home.
And I think that's the hard part about what we do, or when we do it well, is every home, what's the provenance of that home? Why is that home special? What's unique about this specific home? And just sitting with the seller or doing your research and really digging through and figuring out, like connecting the dot to find out that piece about the architect, that was a hidden gem. And to have that is like pretty amazing. I had a property in the city. It was a single family home. And I did the same drill of trying to figure this out. Mm-hmm. What's special? Why this home? And I sat with the sellers and went through everything, every which way. We took apart the home and tried to really figure it out. Come to find out, it's been in the same family for 5 generations. And then within that, the great grandfather bought the home for 10 gold pieces. So that became like the whole thing about my marketing was all about this 10 gold pieces. And
that's so cool.
And I think to your point with your property is like, we have to, especially coming into it, like yours was at a huge disadvantage. It's already been on twice. Buyers look at it and think, what's the matter with it? And so now you have to come in with this completely unique strategy.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's what you do differently and what you can bring to the table that no one else can. And I think that's what's so tough, you know, even being at the same brokerage, right? Like you're with the number one brokerage, you know, everyone thinks that your marketing is going to be the same as the next Compass agent. And it's not true. I mean, we really have to find ways to differentiate ourselves as agents and make our properties stand out.
It's really true. And, you know, you can't show up and just say, I'll do better and XYZ. I provide better service. I have better marketing. Like better is a very subjective term. And so I think showing and not telling is really what you have to do. And again, not to belabor this point, but you really have to come at it from a very different perspective and do your homework. I love that you sat with the seller and said, hey, let's like, we can continue to do more print advertising and expect a different result, or we can now move over to video. So talk to me a little bit about your video strategy. Clearly going that route was the game changer. Was that the one video that I was cruising your channel that had like 95,000 views?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, a couple of years ago, I didn't really see a whole lot of agents that were doing walkthrough video tours, but I felt like, you know, for a property of that magnitude that had so much history, it sometimes with a property, it's not about how it looks in photos, it's how it feels. So the only way that you can really convey a feeling, which is ultimately what the buyer, the experience that they have inside the house, that's what they buy, right? The feeling. The only way to convey that is through video, through movement. And so that's why I think video marketing is so important. And it's not just, you know, hiring anybody to go through there and do a video tour. I think, you know, for some of these luxury properties, it's walking through, it's showing the details. It's, you know, showing that you're knowledgeable, talking about the architecture. It's huge right now. And I think, you know, with us being so digital and buyers are on Zillow, buyers are on Redfin, they're looking everywhere. They're watching the property video before they're even reaching out to their agent to schedule a showing. So that's where first impressions are everything.
100%. Yeah. Motion creates emotion. And
yes, I like that.
Getting them inside the property, getting them to tour the property before they tour the property. It's such a strong and smart strategy because you're basically warming up the sale. They're not coming in cold from just a few videos. And not for nothing, but there's so many agents will put them photos, but the photos are in a goofy order. So then you don't actually get the right experience of the home. And then it's disjointed. You feel it's a little jarring when you actually show up to the property, but a home tour, you not only meet the agent, get their personality, but you can hear their enthusiasm and you can feel, to your point, that you can feel the property before you show up, regardless of their personality type. People don't make decisions, especially homes, on just dollars and cents. Like there's an emotion that's behind it. And that's to go back to delivering pies. Makes people feel good. It makes them feel like you actually care about them on a very deep level rather than just calling them up and asking for referrals or asking to sell their home or whatever it is.
And for me, that's hard for me to do. I don't know why. That's just, I don't know. I would rather give.
Blindly asking for referrals doesn't feel good. Like it doesn't.
No.
We created a marketing system on the back end for all the clients we've worked with in the past. And it's basically written into the team structure is we have to give 5 times more than we ask or take. And so like give them neighborhood reports, give them a gift, give them like some sort of update about what's happening in the market before you ask for a referral or ask for whatever it is. Because, I mean, you can drain those relationships and then ultimately they don't want to take your call. They're going to avoid you. Just, it's not going to travel. It's not going to move your business in that right direction.
The last thing you want someone to say about you is, oh, hey, that's Nikol or that's Shawn. You know, they only reach out to me because they need business or they want more business. They only reach out for referrals. See, that's not good. I think, you know, maybe peppering it in, you know, with some of the gifts or, you know, maybe on the gift tag or something like that. But I don't know, just straight up asking all the time and not calling, not acting like you care, not giving. Yeah, I can't do that.
I can't either. It'll burn out any relationship. Like if you had a sibling who only called you when they needed, hey, I need a favor. I need to borrow your car. I need this. I need that. Can I borrow this? And it's like, God, eventually you're like, I'm not going to answer their call. Like, it's going to be they're going to take something.
It's a solicitation.
Totally is. But if you fill it on the other side of, let me bring you some sparkling cider, which is really smart, I might add, because a lot of clients don't drink.
I've noticed that lately.
Yeah. Especially, I have clients and friends I have a few friends who did Sober October. And so, yeah, I think as realtors, trending away from that is a smart move.
Definitely. I had a client maybe 5 or 6 years back. She used to always talk about drinking margaritas with her girlfriends. And I'm like, okay, I know what the perfect closing gift for her is going to be. A bottle of Claza Azul, the good tequila, the really good stuff. And so I gifted her the Claza Azul at closing. And she's like, oh, thanks so much for this. I guess I'll give it to one of my friends. Actually, I don't drink. And I'm like, wait a minute, you were talking about drinking margaritas with your girlfriends. So, I mean, even if they say they drink, sometimes they may not. So.
I know. I actually joked. I was joking the other day with an agent because we have a pretty hairy deal happening right now. And I just jokingly, like as we were hanging up, I was like, you owe me a nice bottle of whiskey for this. And then like an hour later, he texts me and he's like, hey, what's your favorite whiskey? I was like, I'm actually just kidding. I don't actually drink that much.
See?
I'm actually at fault of doing that very thing.
Oh, wow. That's too funny.
So for marketing, it sounds like you're hard pushing into social. Was that an accurate statement?
Yeah, social media, video marketing. I think that's pretty much where it's at. I do a lot of print marketing too. Don't get me wrong. Farming is a huge part of my business. But really, I think things have moved into video, social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. That's where it's at right now.
If you had to pick one, which one is your go-to social media avenue?
Instagram, just because I've been using Instagram for so long. It's like my daily thing. I'm used to it. It's part of my daily ritual and habit. But I do know YouTube's supposed to be a little bit better. So, dabbled in YouTube a bit this year. I hope to, get more into YouTube next year. Started doing some luxury home tours. I'm hoping to ramp that up again in 2023.
I really like those. You do a really great job with those. And I think, between Instagram and YouTube it doesn't have that expiration. Whereas Instagram if it's a week old, it's already out of date. Whereas I found your video from a year ago showcasing that $5.6 million property, and it still had the same impact and value as the first day you put it up. So I agree. I think of the two, I'm pretty much the same formula, though I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram.
Yeah, me too. And you probably won't believe me when I'm saying this, but I've kind of taken a break from it over the last couple of months. I mean, I'm still posting, but I'm not as gung-ho as I usually am. But I'm going to ramp up and capture some more content here in the next few weeks. This is a great time to do that. Anytime you have downtime, capture content.
Yes, just stockpile it, save it for later, come back to it.
Oh, yeah. No, I posted a home that I videoed, I think, 3 years ago yesterday. So repurpose all those cell phone videos. You go on Broker Caravan and, oh my God, I love this bathroom. I have to get a photo of this. I mean, you can repurpose that stuff for years.
100%. You can absolutely do. I have a colleague who recently took on Instagram. It was like my top 5 favorite bathrooms of the year. And then just They were just all just random photos. There's tons of different ways. And I think it just comes back to what's your strategy for this year? What's your outlet, and how are you communicating that message out?
And doing it consistently. Consistency is key with anything in life, right? But I mean, especially with social media and Instagram, the algorithm and all of that.
You, Nikol, are no stranger to consistency. You were a dedicated athlete for a vast number of years as a professional ballet dancer.
Pretty much half of my life was dedicated to that. I always say that I've had 9 lives because I've done many different things in my life. And I think that's good. It keeps life interesting. So I was a professional ballet dancer till I was about 28, retired from that. And then I got into fitness. So I was a personal trainer, and I actually trained some of the wealthiest individuals in the world for a while. And that kind of sparked my interest in real estate, to be honest. Being around some of these super wealthy, intelligent, successful women, and, being in their homes, because I had a mobile personal training business. And I was going to these crazy mansions, training these women, personal training. And sometimes I would find myself like looking at the architecture, or, hey, I want a tour of your house, wanting to see the house, and losing focus from training them and give them their workouts.
Were you able to parlay that database into real estate? Did that overflow at all?
A little bit. When I first got my license, I felt a little bit funny about marketing real estate to my personal training clients. I mean, if you think about it, what are some of the top values in life? Home and health, right? Those are top values. And I always thought to myself, well, if someone is going to trust me with their health, well, surely they could trust me with a home purchase, because those are high values, I think. It took me a while. I felt funny about marketing to them at first. But a few years in, I finally got a call from one of my personal training clients to sell her house. So that was pretty cool. That was like a full circle moment. And then recently this year, actually, one of the best transactions for me and this year was helping out a girl that I personal trained from like age 16. And now she's much older and grown up, but I sold her first house this year. And that was another full circle moment. She's also my hairdresser. I get to see her tomorrow. But I don't know. It feels good. So now I've mixed everyone together. My sphere is my sphere, so some of my ballet contacts are in there, my personal training clients, and then of course all my new people from real estate.
I had a similar challenge. My background is health and fitness as well. I think I was in my early 20s when I got my personal training certification. Then I got into martial arts. I ran martial arts studios for a while, and then went into high-end athletic clubs before transitioning. And when I transitioned into real estate, it took me a minute, because the people in my past life knew me as this one thing, and I didn't see myself as this new thing yet. But the new people I was meeting at like open houses and different events, they knew me as this new thing. And so it took me a minute to grow into I remember one day, it was after a handful of transactions, I was like getting dressed and I was like, I feel like a realtor. Like it kind of clicked and it all like connected. And then it was shortly thereafter is when I was like, okay, I'm going to then go back to my database and start nurturing them. And that was rewarding, because it kind of then married who I had become with all these aspects and all these different people. Because when I was selling memberships to this more affluent gym, I was connected to all the C-suite executives, and people would come in at lunch. And the amazing part was during the day, it was all realtors. And that's how I initially got introduced to it. I'm like, how do you have time to work out in the middle of the day? And they're like, we do real estate.
Mm-hmm. So were you doing both at the same time? Like when you first got your license, were you still doing the memberships? Were you working 2 jobs at once?
No. So sort of yes and no. So I was working at that job. And then while I was there, I wound up investing into a company, which was probably one of the worst mistakes I made, and left the gym to go help with the sales piece of that new startup, which totally bombed. And at that time, I had the course to get my license. I just didn't complete it. And then once I found myself like basically in between projects, I was like, okay, I'm going to go all into this. And then it was really strange. The day I found out I passed my test, on the same day, a good friend of mine, Misty, owned a gym. And then she's like, hey, I'm looking for a director of membership. Is this something you would entertain? And I knew that I needed to basically have a little bit more in reserve financially to take the leap. So I did that. I did that path for about, I think, 6 or 8 months before going all into real estate. And then once I did, I just ate, slept, and drank real estate. And I got pretty lucky. I got lucky quick out of the gate. But I had a lot of sales understanding and understanding how to build relationships and communicate. So it came together quickly for me. How about you? Did you kind of do 2 jobs parallel, or did you jump in? What was your strategy?
So I jumped in, but I was working essentially 2 full-time jobs at once. So I was still, I'd had personal training clients that were working, 5 years I'd worked with them, and I couldn't just abandon them, right? So I was still working full-time personal training and full-time real estate. So I would like train clients maybe 6 in the morning until 11 or 12. And then, change costumes. And then 1 o'clock and until the evenings, this was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I was at the office. It was all real estate. Of course, weekends, open houses, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it's funny, I see some of these new agents coming up, and 2020, 2021 were so easy, right? They don't really understand what it's like to hustle and build a business. So now they're like, well, what do we do? Well, we haven't had open houses in 2 years. Guess what? You need to get your butt into open houses. But that's really how I built my business, was through open houses. And yeah. And before I had the money to, have a like professional farm and have mailers going out consistently, I was handwriting letters to people. I hand wrote like 300 Christmas cards in like 2015 just to say, oh, hey, thanks for coming by my open house. I sent like 300 of them out. I don't even know how I did that, but early mornings and late nights. And I was just willing to do whatever it took.
Same. Yeah. Open houses for me, that was when I was cutting my teeth. That was my bread and butter. And I hosted anything and everything. My strategy was twofold. And I would ask myself this am I hosting the open house to get leads, or am I hosting the open house to build a relationship with that agent so I can get all of their open houses? And there was an agent who does a prolific amount of business, and I started hosting for her. And I don't know, I got in her good graces, and she she had a property that was on the market for about 2.5 million. And I met a buyer. So my first transaction in San Francisco was a buyer who I met there, and he bought a property for 2.6. And I was like, oh my God. But I was also working, I would do Saturday, Sunday open houses. Plus, I would do a Thursday, and then I would do pickup open houses. So if she had an open house from 2 to 4, I would be like, hey, I'll go there from 11 to 2, and I'll put out all your signs. And like, I did anything and everything. And my strategy was, which is so weird because agents lost this or don't realize this, and I probably shouldn't share it because then they're going to do it and it'll.
Maybe if they're not lazy.
If they're not lazy, but everybody wants the first 2 week of open houses. I'm like, that's terrible. Those are the worst ones. Those are the ones that all the agents are sending their clients to. Like, don't host those. You want week 3, week 4, week 5, when it's dead and 3 people come through and you can have a really amazing, meaningful conversation and then hook them as your client. And that's where all my big closings came from, those, just by living by that strategy.
I agree. And that week 3, week 4, that's when the neighbors are coming through. And not the neighbors that are looky-loos, the neighbors that are just coming to check you out to see how you do business.
100% agree. And that's when, like, get there early, sweep, make sure the place looks right, make sure all your brochures are restocked, make sure you have enough cards, because that's when you're being vetted. And I completely agree. And I mean, as simple as it sounds, it's just have a pen and paper and be ready to get their information and just show up. Like, it's like you're excited to be there as if it was day one right out of the gate.
It's showtime. That's how I see it. You know, it's like in ballet, we prepared for the shows, you know, we rehearsed, and then all of a sudden, okay, it's show day, right? That's how open house is for me. That's the big show.
It's funny. The whole week was positioning to set me up for the weekend. That's all I viewed it as before, to your point, before I had all the revenue coming in to start branching in other directions, to run different marketing strategies and to just approach things in a much different way.
Open houses, it's where it's at.
Oh, I love them. Like, put me in an open house, and I would be just, that's my little happy spot.
And see, like, I would rather do that. I'd rather be in an open house, active in front of someone, than on the phone, than cold calling.
Do you do any like door knocking prior to open house to invite people over, or do any additional marketing to get people to show up to your opens?
I have done door knocking prior to the open houses. It kind of depends on the listing. It depends on the seller. You know, some sellers are, oh, I don't want the neighbors coming through. You know, I've had one of those recently. So I'm a little more hesitant to door knock the neighbors when I've got that going on. But I think, you know, running ads. So usually I'll do a property video, I'll do a social media video, and then I will do like an open house video. So, hey, Nikol Klein, you know, welcome to my new listing, 123 Main Street. I'm going to be here this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 1 to 3. Come stop by and check out the house. So I'll run an ad, a video ad, Instagram, Facebook, and then sometimes I'll do it on YouTube as well. And I'll get people coming through from the video ads, which is cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've tried to run ads for open houses on Facebook and Instagram, and I've had little success. It's funny how some things work sometimes in some markets, and sometimes they just don't work. In San Francisco, a lot of things, mailers it's hard to get a response, very hard. And then I recently, we had a listing that was just outside of San Francisco, and we did a mailer, same area. We had 4 times the response, and everything was the same, just a different, just literally moved over and put in somewhere else. And so It's funny. It's sometimes things work. It's just you have to figure out how or where they'll work. Sometimes it's just seasonal. Like sometimes it'll work for a period in this one time of year.
Yeah, that's true. One thing I always do, and I've done this from the beginning since I started in real estate, is I've always sent out email invites to leads, to Sphere, past clients that I'm having an open house, inviting them to the open house. And I know I recently went through a coaching program, and this is something that, he actually warned against, like, don't send open house emails to your past clients and your Sphere. But I've seen a great benefit from it. My clients, my past clients, my leads, the Sphere, they look at it as an event. It's like, oh my God, Nikol has a new listing. Oh, let's go check out Nikol's listing and let's go visit with Nikol. I think it's a great opportunity to get your past clients through, say hello, catch up. And like I said, it's like the big show. The stage is the house. So I think emails are great too.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're hosting an open house and it's just, you put a sign out front and you're just standing there, don't invite people. Like that's not it. But if you're hosting an event and it happens to be at this property that's for sale, do that 100%. But I think you have a very clear distinction between the two. And not everybody approaches it like that. It should be this thing. I mean, as simple as have snacks. Like if there's food, people will linger longer. Have something to drink. Like people will, again, they'll stay a little bit longer. Have some music. Like make it so it's this warm and inviting experience. And then, and not for nothing, but if you're really cool with your client base and they come in, they want to hang out and chat with you. Like they know they're not buying a house right now. Like they know you're not going to pressure them to buy the house. They know they're just coming to say hi. And I've had past clients pop into open houses because they've seen my sign. They're like, oh, we just saw your sign and wanted to say hi.
And that's the best. I think that's like the best part about open houses, when people come through and surprise you. That's a lot of fun.
It is. And I fear the people who don't enjoy open houses or do well, they are using very different language than we are right now. Like we're saying it's fun and it's exciting and we look forward to it. Whereas people who don't enjoy it, they have a very different idea of what it is.
Yeah. Even, before I had listings, when I was first starting out, I would get these open houses and I would actually bring my videographer in there. Like let's say it's vacant on lockbox, have my videographer go in there the day before the open house and, put together a quick teaser of the house. And then I would take that video and email that video out to everybody. I think it's important for new agents to understand, even if you don't have a listing, you can market, with permission, of course, you can market your open houses and other agents' listings almost as though they're your own.
Yeah. That's not for nothing, but if you're posting on Facebook the properties that you're hosting at open houses, it's being perceived that they're all yours. And a lot of people will ping you and just be like, oh my God, you're crushing it right now. That's amazing. Good for you. And you're like, yeah. But that then establishes you. If you're brand new, it's going to then establish you as a realtor. And the trust level starts going up on those people who knew you from your past jobs, past careers, and things of that nature. But to your point earlier, it's about consistency. It's just being consistent with doing the open houses, posting about them, telling the narrative and talking about it. My approach was I always tried to indirectly talk about the open house. It was funny. One of the posts that got by far the most comments and likes and feedback is I was getting out of my car, getting ready for my open house. I put my coffee on the roof. I turned around, knocked into the car. It spilled all over my pants, all over my shoes. And so and like the cup sitting there all like sad on the ground and like there's no coffee left. And I took a picture of like the mess all over me and the ground, everything. And I just said, hey, if you're in the neighborhood, I'm going to be at this open house from 2 to 4. I would love another coffee. It was just like, everybody was like, oh my God, that's hilarious.
Oh, it's sad though. You dropped your coffee, you messed up your outfit. Oh man.
I had wet socks for 2 hours. It was amazing.
Hey, whatever it takes. Right. And we've come full circle. It's always, every day's an adventure.
It totally is. And you know what? The show must go on. Figure it out. I think if nothing else, that is probably the best way to wrap this episode is things are going to happen. Just figure it out and keep moving forward.
Stay ready. Things change.
Where can people find you? What's the easiest place for them to look you up?
I think the best place for anyone to find me would be on Instagram. It's simply at Nikol Klein. That would be the best way to find me, to reach out to me. If you want to message me, connect that way. I love Instagram. I'm always checking my messages. DM me.
Perfect. And that's a wrap.